Please welcome Centranet Vice President, Business and Technology Strategies, Sachin Gupta.
Morning. Wow, not even a response. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce Rob Griffin, the tribal broadband leader of Choctaw Nation. He's going to come and talk about saving the Chara language, which is a Choctaw Nation language, using fiber connectivity. Please give me a big hand to welcome Rob Griffin on the stage.
Good morning, Halito from the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Grateful to be here. Thank you, Sachin, for my introduction. So, Sachin is our board liaison for the tribal nations, and we consist of about 37 tribal nations that get together, and we talk about all of the things that we're challenged by. And so, there are about 500 plus federally recognized tribal nations across the United States, and we all have different challenges. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So, I've been around for a while, but I did not have a pet dinosaur. And so I appreciate Jimmy coming in and doing the sound for me this morning, if you heard that. But I remember hitting that connect button and hearing that sound, and it sounded like Godzilla talking to a T-Rex. You know, it wasn't that nice, easy sound that I heard this morning. It was like screech. I mean, you can make the sound, right? You guys can make the sound. But it was so annoying because it would take so long to connect. And your laptop would start to smoke, and you're hearing that sound, and sometimes you'd have to find another plug, and then you'd have to go over here. And, you know, you don't even dare run a bandwidth test because you could see the page loading 1 pixel at a time, right? And so, thinking about that, I was traveling across the reservation about 6 years ago. And I went to one of the community centers, and I asked the lady behind the desk, can I take a look at your computer? And I'm a member of the nation, so she was okay, come on in, I know you're working on our internet. And so I connected, I tried to send an email, I tried to see those pixels download, and it did the exact same thing. So I went into the settings, and sure enough, there's a modem 6 years ago at a community center on the Choctaw Reservation. And I said, we've got to do something about that. So we worked on a project to deliver fiber to all 17 locations across the reservation. And we're really glad we did that because after the pandemic, we deployed hardened Wi-Fi devices outside the buildings so the communities and our members could connect remotely. So if you think about that, and I didn't even know this, I did a Google search yesterday, there are still dial-up providers out there. So our task is to get rid of all that dial-up off the reservation. We consist of 11,000 square miles in southeastern Oklahoma. We've got Arkansas on the east, Texas on the south, and we're very consistent in the way that we do business. We look at our communities, we think about faith, family, and culture, first and foremost. And so when you look at the Choctaw Nation, I like to say we're the 43rd largest state in the US, area-wise. We're about the same size as Massachusetts, but only 3% of the population. And so we have 400 locations across the reservation, about 1/8 of those generating revenue. But more importantly than that, only 40% of our coverage map shows more than 35% show less than 25/3 connectivity. And of course, we know what that means, right? It means that some of these folks have no internet connection whatsoever. So we're working on a goal of getting to 80% by the end of 2027. And we've got pretty close to $300 million coming in to the reservation in build out for fiber to the home. So we're very grateful and thankful for that. We also have our 2.5 wireless network deployed, the EBS spectrum. We've got 27 projects for fiber to the home. We're going to build out 250 miles of fiber and serve 2,000 customers, and we start to turn those customers up later this summer. And so when you look at the reservation, we have a lot of challenges. If you look at the top picture, you can see the sunsets, you can see the twisters coming in, and we also have the buffalo on the reservation as well. And then on the other side of the reservation, you can see that we have Mount Fuji, the Ouachita Mountains, Mount Everest, and so we have to bore through granite, all of the rock that you think about and how expensive that is. So we've got a very wide breadth of civilization there and different ways that we've got our population dispersed. So the question is, what do you do with all that land, right? So we've developed partnerships, and in Norman, we're going to welcome the volunteer football team in September. And we love Josh Heupel. We think he's great. But I have sad news for all the volunteer fans. It's going to be a bad day in September. And we have Alabama coming over for a Thanksgiving feast. So now that we're in the SEC, I can't wait to get back to football. Love for you guys to come over and visit us in Norman. We will come back and return the favor the following year. So if you think about partnerships, I heard it mentioned by Ash this morning and what you're trying to do. And the only way to think about technology is how we take the strengths of the different organizations and help each other. So what we did is we applied for a loan and a grant to build the only emerging aviation technology center at Daisy Ranch in southeastern Oklahoma. Now, if you think about light pollution, noise pollution, we have none. So we're able to build this one-of-a-kind development center, and I don't know if you knew this, but drones can go over 200 miles an hour. Somehow Lamborghini, Ferrari, McLaren, they built these drones, I guess, and they go 200 miles an hour. And if you think about all the applications that you can use 200-mile-an-hour drones for, it's better than just getting your Amazon delivery, right? But you can move blood samples, you can move all kinds of medical devices, prescriptions back and forth across the reservation with ease. Now, these are technologies that are still emerging. We even have companies coming into the reservation to build flying cars. And if you think about that, why would you ever need a flying car except for it to go fast? But the concept is, what if you took a mini ER and you transported it to the middle of nowhere? And it was completely staffed. It had all the medical supplies to save somebody's life. And you could move that vehicle anywhere across any land that it could contour, and you could do it remotely. That's a great way to save lives, right? And do it. And if you think about, I didn't even think about this with electric cars. You don't need a transmission. You just need the landing pieces. You don't have an engine. And so when you think about how much space you can actually get in a car for an EMT unit, it's amazing. Now, today, what we're here to talk about are the code talkers in World War I. And I've been doing a little studying on my history. I didn't know a lot of this information before. But in 1917, the British intercepted a message going to Mexico. And they told Mexico that if you invade the US, you will get all the lands back. Now, that was one of the criteria why the US entered the war. There were other criteria. And what happened is, as soon as we got there, the Allies were struggling. Not because of us, but because of the communication interruption. Hacking happened in World War I. It was causing defeat for the Allies. So if you can't move your food supply, your armory supply, and you can't move the troops without interception, and the other side knows what you're doing, when you're doing it, and how you're doing it, it makes it difficult to win a war. So what happened is, I've got a story. I want you guys to listen to this. It's about a minute and a half.
soon after the Meuse-Argonne campaign got underway, a company commander in the 36th Division reportedly happened to overhear two soldiers of the 142nd Infantry Regiment conversing in Choctaw. The company commander recognized the military potential of the Choctaw language. Using a field telephone, the captain asked the men to deliver a message in their native tongue, which their colleagues quickly translated back into English. The Germans did not decipher this message, proving the Choctaw language was a viable communications weapon. The Choctaw Telephone Squad was born. The legislation was left open-ended so that any tribe that found code talkers would qualify for a gold medal. When the legislative process began, 14 tribes identified with code talkers. To date, there are 34 tribes who have identified code talkers and have gold medals because of servant leadership and the willingness to help all tribes.
You can clap if you want to. So these men, these fathers, sons, we call them Tushka warriors, these heroes went to France to help a nation that where they had been removed in 1832 from their homelands to a different land. They volunteered because in 1924, they became U.S. citizens. So the volunteers were not actually U.S. citizens that went over to France. And if you can think about that, would you volunteer? And I'm a veteran, I'm proud to be a veteran, but these guys are heroes. These are the people that changed the outcome of the war. Hundreds and thousands of warriors, many of which never came back. And they did it because we have our culture, our language, multiple tribal languages, Native American, indigenous, however you want to phrase it. At that time, it was Indian language, and it was unable to be hacked by the Germans or anyone else. So after some test models, we were able to move our armory, our supplies, keep our food chain supply alive, all due to the warriors. Now, I heard a story about a Choctaw couple, and so he went to the store, and when he got back, the government had came and given him a gold medal. And so his wife accepted on his behalf. And so the first question was, his wife asked him, "Why didn't you tell me about these code talkers? I didn't know you were a code talker." I don't know about you, but if I hadn't told my wife I was a code talker for 50 years, I'd be in trouble, right? So he was able to keep that classified, and so all but one tribe was ordered to keep that information classified and never tell anyone. Only the Navajo code talkers in the Second World War were able to be identified on their discharge papers. And only 5 decades later did the other tribes receive recognition. So what we've done is we've focused in to preserve our language. And if you think about that, if we've got almost 40% of our reservation unable to have good, reliable, affordable internet, then we've got a lot of work ahead of us. We've got dozens of employees that work diligently every day to make sure that we execute this well. We have our own dictionary available online. We teach dozens of classes every week. We deploy our classes to universities, childcare locations. We want to preserve the language. Now, if we go backwards in time, pre-pandemic, our first generation code talkers, speakers, they were in their 70s. So if you can think about an elder going back to their home and trying to connect via the internet with a dial-up connection, it just doesn't work because everything we do nowadays is via video. As you know, language is immersive. To learn the language, you have to be in it every day, you have to practice it, you have to think about it, you have to do it to become good at it. So we practice this every day, and if you come to one of our Choctaw facilities, you're liable to be greeted in one of these ways. Yakoki, thank you. Yakoki, thank you. Halito, hello. Halito, hello. And then my favorite one, Chupizo Lechiki. Chupizo Lechiki, which means until we meet again. In the Choctaw language and many other tribal languages, there is no word for goodbye, only until I see you again. We make this available via our mobile apps, our devices, online. We have Choctaw hymns, we have Choctaw singers, as many other tribal nations do. And then we teach our classes every day. So what I did for you, one more word in Choctaw, Haklo, to listen, Haklo. So I'm new to the NTIA, USDA acronym grant application game. I've only been in it for about 3 years. But in the last 3 years, I've gathered information, and I created a tribal broadband document. I uploaded it to haklo.net. You can go there. Now, at the front of the page, you'll see Godzilla talking to a T-Rex, and feel free to make the sound when you connect. But at the bottom of the page, you can download the PDF. It's free for everybody to use, however you want to. I'm glad to be able to provide that for you. So, as Gary says, when fiber leads, the future follows, sometimes into the past. So I invite all of you to come to the Choctaw Cultural Center in Durant, Oklahoma. We have amazing facilities. We just built one of our casinos in Broken Bow. It's a brand new facility. It just opened. We have another facility that opened a couple of years ago. World-class, non-smoking, state-of-the-art environments that you can come, enjoy yourself. We have movie theaters. We have bowling alleys. We have everything for families. So please come, and then come to the Cultural Center and find out more about thousands of years of culture that has happened in the past. So with that, I say Yokoki, Chupizo Lechiki, God bless.